Mom's courageous decision and the heroism of the team of doctors and the baby who defied the odds before he was born. Today at 5.
A world with less breast cancer is a...
Seats on domestic flight.
Island reporter Greg Sergel has more on what happened.
10-month-old Dante Francis can be a handful for his mom, but no challenge this little guy ever presents will compare to 5 gut-wrenching weeks during Suzanne Francis's pregnancy.
It was just one of the scariest things you could ever go through.
At 13 weeks, Francis was told her baby was in trouble. Fluid was building up around his heart, a condition that could be fatal.
The risk was the baby could have been in a congestive heart failure, or the baby's lungs would not have developed properly and he would have not been able to survive after birth.
The only answer was to drain the fluid, but to do that, Dr. Vora would have to run a needle into Suzanne Francis's stomach to a baby's heart that was the size of a quarter. Dr. Vora told the Francises it had been done only 10 times before.
I felt like, wow, why do I have to be the guinea pig here? And how do we know it's going to work?
Faced with those life and death questions, Suzanne and husband Robert wrestled with the decision on what to do. 5 weeks later, they went ahead with the rare procedure. An ultrasound machine like this one helped guide doctors to that tiny area around baby Dante's heart. The amount of fluid they withdrew to save his life was less than a teaspoon.
That was enough to make a difference because the heart is so small at this time.
Baby Dante was born healthy and remains so today, a bouncing baby brother to 4-year-old Madeline. Mom calls Dante her miracle.
Operating on a fetus, you know, I mean, who's ever heard of that? So, I mean, it's quite miraculous.
Greg Sergel, News 4 New York.
What a precious smile.
Yeah, good for Dante and his parents.
Yeah.
Now, a milestone celebration today for this week for a Bronx resident, Louise Mitchell.
Happy birthday. With the baby. I don't think I'll ever forget those words.
The rare medical procedure that saved this baby's life before he was even born. And also tonight, the plan to stop the Port Authority from charging you more at the tolls this week. And we've got all those stories coming up. Join Dana Tyler and me tonight at 6.
Get ready for the new 2.5
procedure performed while he was still in the womb. Dr. Sapna Parikh tells us how doctors did it. Next.
And I'm Liz Cho. Next at 6, Suffolk County under the microscope following the murder of an immigrant 3 years ago. Tonight,
thanks to a rare procedure performed on his heart before he was even born.
Today, his parents were able to thank their doctors at North Shore University Hospital. Dr. Jay Adlersberg is off tonight. Dr. Sapna Parikh joins us with the story. Sapna?
You're about to meet this beautiful 10-month-old boy. He's strong, he's active, and most importantly, he is healthy. But when his mother was just a little over 3 months pregnant, she and her husband were forced to make an incredibly difficult decision.
It's pretty much a mother's worst nightmare to receive the news that there's a problem with your baby.
Today, that baby is happy and squirming around in his mother's lap. 10-month-old Dante Francis was the star from the moment his parents brought him back to the hospital. At a press conference with their doctors, Suzanne and Robert Francis told us their story. When Suzanne was only 13 weeks pregnant, doctors discovered liquid around the heart of the fetus. It's a common condition that often resolves on its own, but this time it got worse.
In this particular case, the fluid was quite large around the baby's heart and therefore posed a threat to the survival of the fetus.
The couple was devastated but agreed to let the doctors perform a procedure which has been done at most 10 times worldwide. It meant inserting a needle into the area around the baby's heart to remove the fluid while the heart is still beating. The fetus had not even reached 20 weeks gestation, at which time the heart is barely the size of a quarter.
The risk of the procedure was that we were going into a very narrow space around the baby's heart, and there was a risk that we could cause bleeding by puncturing the heart, or we could even cause loss of the pregnancy completely.
Dr. Vora and her colleagues succeeded, and Dante came into the world 6 months later.
He's good, and we really appreciate that, and I just think it was a miracle what they could do.
And his parents say they had extra testing because of fertility treatments, so they credit that testing and their doctors for saving their baby. And they named him Dante, by the way, because it means eternal or everlasting in Latin. Diana, Sade, back to you.
That's great. It's very sweet. Thanks, Sapna. And that does it for this 5 o'clock edition.
I'll tell you about the rare medical procedure that saved this baby's life before he was even born.
And it is not officially here yet. Fall arrives.
Shows the heartbeat of a fighter, the unborn child facing incredible odds. Tonight, a Long Island family is forever grateful to the doctors who saved their little boy.
He had a rare medical procedure before he was even born. CBS 2's Catherine Brown has the story tonight from Manhasset.
Dante is the best.
10-month-old Dante Francis is a happy, healthy handful of a little boy and a miracle twice over. After being told they had only a 2% chance of conceiving, his parents, Suzanne and Robert, were overjoyed to learn they were pregnant. But then, just 13 weeks into their journey, terrifying news.
The dreaded, there's a problem with the baby. I don't think I'll ever forget those words.
Doctors told Suzanne her baby was suffering from what's called a pericardial effusion, a potentially life-threatening heart condition caused by fluid buildup around the heart. The only solution, a delicate in utero procedure, one so rare and risky, it's been done fewer than a dozen times worldwide.
I was pretty much preparing myself for the worst and cried a lot and over it and prayed a lot.
Suzanne and Robert put their faith in Dr. Nidhi Vora and a team of specialists at North Shore University Hospital. Using a tiny needle inserted through Suzanne's abdomen, doctors drained fluid from Dante's quarter-sized heart.
The needle went right next to the beating heart, and we removed just about half a teaspoon of fluid from that sac, and that was just enough for the heart to then come back again to its normal size.
The procedure is very rare, but the problem Dante had is actually very common.
Some of these will go away on their own, but if there's a pericardial effusion which is not getting better, if anything it's getting worse, and there is a risk to the fetus, it's worth doing this procedure.
And for little Dante, it was a lifesaver.
Very active and smart and happy.
In Manhasset, Long Island, Catherine Brown, CBS 2 News.
Doctors will continue to monitor Dante very closely, but say he has no lingering heart problems. So active, wasn't he, Chris?
Say, no shortage of movement there.
Oh, that's a good story.
Speaking of a guy, no shortage of movement, Lonnie Quinn. Let's bring him. He's been all over the place.
That a task force
at the time. News 12 Long Island's Jackie Lucas has the story.
This was the most terrifying occurrence I've ever experienced.
Mother Suzanne Francis had a scary pregnancy with now 10-month-old Dante. When she was just 13 weeks pregnant, she learned the baby had a potentially life-threatening heart condition. There was too much fluid around his heart.
It's pretty much a mother's worst nightmare to receive the news that there's a problem with your baby.
The Huntington family turned to doctors at North Shore University Hospital to save Dante's life. 4.5 months into her pregnancy, she agreed to undergo a groundbreaking procedure called in utero pericardiocentesis. That's where doctors use a needle to drain the fluid around the baby's heart. The procedure is risky, and doctors say it's only been done 10 times worldwide.
The biggest risk we run into is that we can lose the pregnancy completely. Whether it is from bleeding, whether it is from infection, or mother going into preterm labor, that is the biggest risk when we do these procedures.
We didn't know whether he was going to live. I think just, having that stress in a pregnancy is hard enough.
Thankfully, the procedure was a success. Suzanne and her husband Robert couldn't be more grateful, and Dante was born a healthy baby boy.
He's just an active boy. He just wants to be on the go all the time, and he's only stationary when he's sleeping.
Although the family admits agreeing to the procedure was the hardest decision they've ever made, they say it certainly was the most rewarding.
I just think it was a miracle what they could do, and just wanted them to help Dante and save his life.
I'm Jackie Lucas, News 12 Long Island.
Now Dante does have to get his heart checked regularly, but doctors say he is leading a happy, healthy life.
Very lucky baby there.
Absolutely. Relief for the family. Time for a look now at tomorrow's weather.
Meteorologist Samantha Ajiri standing by with your hyper-local forecast. Sam?
Hi, Stone. Hi, Lee, and good evening, everyone.
Performed rare surgery to save their son. Suzanne Francis returned to North Shore Hospital today with 10-month-old Dante. Just 4 months into her pregnancy, Suzanne's child, Dante, was diagnosed with a condition that caused fluid buildup around his heart. Doctors acted quickly, though, removing the fluid with a long needle.
I really had to trust. I think that was the core, was being able to just trust and know that this is going to be okay, and I just had to go on that. I mean, what were the other options? I didn't want to experience losing my baby.
Well, as you can see right there, everything went just fine for little Dante. And today he is a healthy little boy. Doctors say the surgery has been done less than a dozen times before, but obviously, thank goodness, it all worked out. We'll be right back.
TV's
The life of one little boy before he was even born. Literature. And tonight we have the story of what one baby went through that saved his life before he was born.
It's pretty much a mother's worst nightmare to receive the news that there's a problem with your baby.
Imagine being 13 weeks pregnant and finding out that your baby has a dangerous fluid buildup around his heart that threatens to decrease the amount of blood pumped from the heart. That's what happened to Suzanne Francis, mother of now happy and healthy 10-month-old baby Dante and his 4-year-old sister Madeline. The size of a quarter like this one. That's how big Dante's heart was at 18 weeks old inside of Suzanne's womb. Doctors say they used a needle to drain out the fluid around the heart in order to save his life.
Removed just about half a teaspoon of fluid from that sac, and that was just enough for the heart to then come back again to its normal size.
Doctors say it was dangerous, but it had to be done.
If we sit and do nothing, this could get worse, and as Dr. Romano mentioned, the baby could go into congestive heart failure, or the lungs may not develop, and the baby may not be able to survive when it's delivered.
There aren't enough words to even describe how much I love my baby, my children.
And his 4-year-old sister Madeline couldn't be happier to have him in her life.
I help feed him, and I help Mommy get his bottle.
In Manhasset, Oriana D'Agostino, TV 10 and 55 News.
Oh my goodness, she was so cute.
Yes.
Wow,
a story to tell the grandkids.
Absolutely,
All right.
absolutely. And coming up with the news at 11, authorities